what's your thoughts? I shouldn't say how do you feel. What's your thoughts on vocabulary and the type of vocabulary we use internally and the damages it can do if we tend to use the negative vocabulary all the time?
Give me an example.
Well, an example perfect example would be you go to set out to achieve something. Well, I didn't quite make it, but you know what? I was an idiot. I failed at this part. 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 I failed at this part because I did this and I couldn't do this and I didn't know this and I didn't know that and I was unable to do this. That's the reason I failed. Instead of saying, well, you know what? I set out to do this and I could have probably done this a little better. If I were to probably read this book on, say, goal setting, it might give me some better ideas as to how to go about this part that I didn't quite seem to grasp and quite seem to conquer the way I wanted to conquer it. So we're speaking about the same thing, but we're using such different vocabulary that subconsciously either does damage or does benefits to us.
And that's something we all have to watch because, you know, our words do, you know, I have to watch how I say something. And when I'm tired or lazy, you know, it doesn't always come out. I'm going to share a story with you. And I haven't shared this with very many people, certainly not publicly. When I was growing up, part of, you know, one of the things my dad used to do is he would sort of watch me play or listen to me on the phone. And afterwards, he would give me this big lecture about everything I had done wrong. And you shouldn't have said this, and this made you look foolish, and you know, and you know, never talk like this, or never. I mean, it was just tore me to shreds. And I know his intention was probably not to destroy any sense of worth that I had, although, you know, that kind of had that sort of an outcome for a while at least. It's not exactly the best skill building technique, you know, and what part of the outcome of that was that for many years, anytime I would do anything, when I was finished, whether it was, you know, talk on the phone to a friend or do a presentation or do a lesson, there would be a voice in my head telling me all the ways I had blown it. And part of the personal work I've done has been to learn how to kind of turn the volume down on that. And to be honest with you, it's been even many years actually since I've experienced that. But that was my default, was to self-criticize and self-analyze, because that was what I was taught to do. And that was what I thought. Now, you know, I get this feedback, and sometimes they're right, and sometimes I really blew it. I said something that was totally inappropriate, and it's like, you know, if I can at the time recognize it and apologize it and correct it, you know, there's that Concorde change of course, you know, going on a different flight path now, because where I'm going isn't going to take me there. To not take it personally required some very deep inner work for me personally. And I think some of us need to do that. A lot of us don't want to do that. I'm not about to tell somebody they need to do it because I don't know what path they're on. I know for me that there was some work that was part of the garbage that I had to get out of my basement in order to not let that drive me. I didn't want that to be my engine. Is it there? Is it part of my structure? Sure. Does it drive me now? No. And again, part of that is getting older. Some of the vocabulary, I remember sometimes I heard somebody talk, and I wish I could give credit for this, but just even saying the word next, just move on. You know, you get a piece of feedback that doesn't resonate with you. It's like, okay, thank you for sharing. Walking out and looking in the mirror and going,
you would just say next.
What's that?
And you would just say next.
Next, yeah. You know, it's like, you know, we don't want your book. We're not interested in the topic, or it doesn't seem to be a good match for us. Okay, next.
Yeah.
Move on.
Well, I could see how, because you create that as a trigger. You create that as a switch in your mind to say, okay, that's what I'm going to say every time. You can either take the Y in the street, and which side are you going to take? Are you going to take the side that's going to benefit you, or are you going to take the side that's going to slip you into depression and fear and just total zero worth?
Yeah, it's not always a cognitive choice, though, and that's the piece. I think that's probably why it felt important for me to share that story about, you know, my dad's feedback and the you know, the really, really negative, the criticism and the, you know, just kind of tearing to shreds. If somebody has grown up with that, if that work requires more support or assistance, I would encourage somebody to do it. I don't know that I could have just said, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, I'm going to choose a different path, because that was so integrated into my belief system and so integrated into the structure of my being that choice was a very surface, it's like, again, looking in the mirror and saying, I can do anything. If there isn't a core belief to support that's just, you may as well be sitting there just making noises. It's nothing. It doesn't get into your psyche. I think for me, at least, I needed to do a little bit of cleaning out to get to the point where I could say, I don't like the feedback that I just got here. What can I do with that? Is there anything in here that's valuable? I actually got a letter from somebody, and boy, I think it really speaks to the frustration level that a lot of teachers are experiencing right now. And the guy had handwritten it, and it was like, I'm really upset with you. None of your ideas work. Schools are horrible. Kids are beating up teachers. Teachers get no support from administrators. I'm very upset with you. And his handwriting's getting bigger and bigger and bigger as this goes on. And that was how he closed the letter. I'm very upset with you. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, A, this has nothing to do with me. And B, there's nothing here I can address other than his frustration. And I wrote him a letter. And it's like, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you took the time to do this. I can hear how angry and frustrated you are. It sounds like you're looking for something that, better ways to punish kids, which, I don't have. So I can understand why you'd be upset. And next. This ain't about me. This is his stuff. And see, I think, again, as I've gotten older and I've done a lot of my inner work and my personal work, I've been able to better separate what's mine and what's not mine, and what can I do. If he had said, instead of saying none of your ideas work, if he had said, I don't believe in win-win, then I can say, well, I can certainly understand that our whole culture is win-lose or no-win. And I can give you some more information that may help you make choices that are more win-win in terms of the likelihood of you getting the outcomes that you want and allowing the people in your life to get the outcomes that they want, which is really what win-win is about. But I don't know what he's upset about other than the fact that he's upset. He's allowed to be upset, and I will totally support that. And that, at no point did that ever land on me. Was it creepy to get something like that? I'd much rather get "you're the best thing I've ever read" letters, but but that's not even about me either.